All right, so I am here with Nikhil from Databricks. Nikhil, it's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
And you are a product manager over clean rooms and a few other items at Databricks, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I lead the product management sort of area for data and AI collaboration, including cleanrooms.
What are clean rooms?
Yeah, cleanrooms essentially they've been around for a while, and I think it's good to just take a step back and look at like the genesis of what a data cleanroom is, right? If you look at the last decade or so, we've seen sort of governments and entities implement sort of privacy laws and regulations for how you can use customer data. And you can think about the GDPR and CCPA as sort of the incumbents of that. And what we've seen essentially is organizations and enterprises adapting to some of these privacy laws and changes being implemented. And as part of that, like Google was one of the first sort of pioneers of what we call a data clean room. So essentially, if you think about Google and sort of their advertising platform, when customers run campaigns, they want to know exactly how their advertisements are performing. And a lot of times, Google used to provide sort of log level data back to customers. And once these privacy laws and regulations went into place, they had to react and provide another platform or capability where you can glean some insights on how the campaign is effective or it's been sort of being optimized for what you're doing. So they introduced what they call Google Ads Data Hub, which was sort of the first data cleaner that came into the market. So the way you can think about a clean room is essentially allows two or more parties to come together in a secure, privacy-centric environment and run analyses on the underlying data without directly sharing that data with the other party. You can essentially get into a collaboration and have two parties bring their first party data, which is proprietary to them, that has sensitive information. You can run analyses on two or more data assets and then get insights from both of that. So that's what essentially a clean room does. And we've seen sort of clean room now being adopted across tech platforms. So after Ads Data Hub, there's Amazon AMC, and then we're starting to see some data warehouses sort of build clean room solutions that make it easier for enterprises, you know, including data platforms like Databricks, for enterprises to come together and collaborate on their first party data, again, while protecting the sensitivity and IP, et cetera.
How is Databricks' clean rooms offering similar and different to what other vendors have to offer?
Yeah, great question. So Databricks actually had almost like a third mover advantage when it came to its cleanroom offerings. So cleanrooms, as I mentioned, they've existed for a few years now. And one of the main concerns that customers had when it came to actually collaborating with their partners or customers is not everyone is on the same cloud or data platform as you are. So when they actually got into the nitty gritty of how do we actually share data with each other without having to make copies or having to go out of your VPC or privacy restrictions that you might have for your enterprise, customers are like, wait, it's hard for us to collaborate and we really can't do it without having to copy the data over. So that's where Databricks Cleanroom stands out compared to the other solutions. We allow you to be able to share data assets across clouds, across regions, and even with Lakehouse Federation, even across data platforms and data warehouses. So, for example, if you are a customer that's on AWS and you have a partner that might be on GCP or using Snowflake, for example, they're still able to collaborate in a Databricks cleanrooms without having to move or copy the data out. So that's
Awesome.
that's the first part. The second part is many of the existing cleanroom platforms are SQL first. You think about, okay, if I go back to the genesis of the cleanroom, the ad tech and martech industry was the first sort of early adopters. And a lot of their early use cases were about being able to plan campaigns or do measurement on the campaigns that are being run. And that primarily required, SQL queries that you can run to do an overlap analysis to like plan the audience, or for you to do aggregate queries, again, using SQL. And as customers started to get more advanced into the cleanroom use cases, and as other industries started to look at cleanrooms as a primary way to collaborate, they realized SQL doesn't sort of meet all their needs. So they needed a different sort of language support or platform that allows them to do arbitrary SQL, arbitrary Python, which is what Databricks supports out of the box. So you can use notebooks to essentially author your analyses or queries and then use that within a cleaner, whether you're using SQL or Python. And soon we're also going to be supporting Java and Scala as well.
From a vertical standpoint, okay, what are some of the verticals that clean rooms just it's just a perfect fit from? I have my ideas as to which ones they are, but I'm curious to hear from your perspective when as Databricks was working on clean rooms, what were the verticals that were specifically in Databricks' mind?
Yeah, so what again, the early adopters have been in sort of the advertising and marketing industry, right? So
Yeah.
you think about publishers that want to provide back insights as to how brands or CPGs are essentially performing on their campaigns, or even thinking about like planning out campaigns to do audience segmentation. So that was sort of the first sort of early adopters and vertical that was looking into clean rooms. But what we've actually seen in the last year or so is that there's many other verticals that are looking at clean rooms as a primary way of collaborating with their partners. So think about financial institutions, right? So banks and merchants that are coming together to essentially do like fraud detection, and which we'll talk about in a moment in a demo that are using clean rooms as a primary way to collaborate. We also see customers in pharmaceuticals and healthcare that are using clean rooms as a way to accelerate clinical trials or uh, do drug discovery. And even in the retail space, so retail and CPGs that are building out these retail media platforms, R&M networks, to be able to, again, provide back insights to the brands that are using their platform to advertise or improving sort of supply chain as to how you're able to optimize what sort of products or what stores you should prioritize. So we're sort of seeing cleaners take importance across the different industries, starting with sort of the advertising front.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And honestly, yeah, it's like when I think of clean rooms myself, my first thought is not the ad tech world, right? My it's some of those that you mentioned, the financial services, the healthcare and life sciences, the even the supply chain with some of the different pieces too. So that makes perfect sense to me. Now, now perhaps a slightly more critical question is from when you look at the experience that folks have had, oh, that your customers have had, what are some of the first few things that customers tell you, like, hey, we really love how this is, or how you've built this capability or this specific feature? And I would also love to hear the flip side. What are some of the areas that your team is working on improving when it comes to clean
Yeah,
rooms?
so the early adopters that sort of started off using Databricks cleanrooms, they really like the ability to be able to run any sort of arbitrary SQL, especially if it's mutually agreed on with the parties that are collaborating. And as of today, we support two-party cleanrooms, and some of our customers are like, "Hey, wait, in my sort of cleanroom use case, I have multiple partners that are coming together in a single cleanroom environment, and I still want to be able to collaborate with them." So to address that, we're actually introducing multi-party collaboration, which is going to be rolling out very soon. So that was one of the frequent asks that we received. The other one was today, if you look at how the two-party cleaner model, especially the code approvals, is designed, it's essentially an implicit approval model, which means if you and I are in a clean room and I want you to be able to run some sort of analyses. I'm essentially uploading the notebook, which contains the code, and you're essentially reviewing that notebook, and you have the ability to run it and receive results. Again, this works well in a two-party setting, but
Mhm.
if you look at customers that want to be able to iterate on the analyses that are being run in a clean room environment, they're looking at more or less using explicit approvals. So it's like, I want to bring this notebook, I want to be able to run this code. Can you, the other party, approve it? So that's another area that customers are asking for. And as part of that, we're introducing explicit approvals and even auto approvals to make that more efficient.
With Lakeflow coming up with like Lakeflow Connect, Transform, and Orchestrator, however the names are, is there any type of connection between clean rooms and Lakeflow? And if the answer is no, can you explain to the audiences why there would be no such thing?
Yeah, if you look at Lakeflow Connect and Cleanrooms, Cleanrooms is actually built on top of Unity Catalog. So when you are essentially creating a clean room and starting your collaboration, you're essentially having all your data assets sitting in your sort of your lakehouse in Unity Catalog. And then you're essentially making that available via Delta sharing into a clean room environment. So where Lakeflow Connect would sort of come into picture is, especially if you are thinking about getting your access to data that might be sitting in a CRM or your first party data that's on a different platform, ingesting that into Databricks and making that available within Unity Catalog for you it to be collaboratable, or making it easy for you to access it in a cleaner. That's how those are connected. But again, it's more of a prep step for getting your data in. And then Cleanroom is more about collaborating and essentially making that data available for your partners.
Yeah, in other words, for people that are interested in actually say bringing in the data, the best approach, it's not through clean rooms, but clean rooms is mainly for that exploration type phase. Like, is this data right for me or is this not? Whereas if you are trying to permanently set up some pipelines that are coming in, that's when you're perhaps looking into Delta sharing if you just need to query that data live, or if you are actually wanting to bring in data, perhaps you're using Delta sharing or something else, and then you're perhaps running it through Lakeflow or just the good old traditional ways of ingesting and transforming data.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Last but not least, before we jump into a demo, what are some of the things to be aware of before diving into using clean rooms? Like, what are the things that you see sometimes folks getting tripped up whenever they're getting into clean rooms for the first time?
Yeah, it actually starts with sort of the partnership angle. So being able to figure out who you're collaborating with and having the agreements in place of what are the types of insights that you're trying to get out from this clean room collaboration. And doing that prep work up front will make it much more easier for you to essentially engage with the right teams to get those data assets and then start collaborating in a clean room. So I'd say that was the number one thing that customers should think about. The second thing is when you are in a clean room, especially on Databricks, you're essentially running notebook jobs that are mutually agreed from both the parties. And it takes a little bit of time to sort of iterate on what is that right analysis or query that you're running in the clean room environment. So again, coming prepared as to, here's the types of queries that we're going to be running against our data. Here's how each of those data schemas are going to be formatted, or metadata and column names are going to be present. It'll make it much more easier for you to iterate on, what types of analysis you want to do in the clean room itself. So that sort of data prep and understanding what analysis you're running is going to be really important. And we've really simplified the way that you add in data assets and then you run the analysis. Like Cleanrooms is built on serverless. So you just add in your notebook and then hit run, and you'll essentially start to see the results flow in. So all that is sort of self-managed and simplified within Databricks. But the main thing about having the data prepped and ensuring that you and your partners agree on the types of insights that you're getting, I'd say is the most important things.
Awesome. Now you have a demo for us, so take it away.
All right, I know you requested something that relates to the financial industry. So I have a demo here that talks about how two banks, so have Bank A and Bank B, are coming together in a clean room and running a fraud detection notebook that identifies, which countries are seeing potential fraudulent transactions. So the way you would start off within Databricks for clean rooms is here I am within my Unity catalog. You'll see that there's an entry point called clean rooms. Once you dive in, you'll see all the clean rooms that you're either a part of or that you've created in the past. Let's start fresh and create a clean room here. And the first thing you do is give this clean room a name. So let's just say fraud demo clean room. And you can pick the region of where your central clean room environment is deployed. So you have access to all the regions that we support in serverless. I'll just stick with the default. And the way that you invite the other partner or party into a clean room is through a clean room sharing identifier. So if you're collaborating with Bank B, let me switch tabs here. If you go into Bank B's Unity catalog and clean rooms, they can actually copy the sharing identifier for their Metastore and then share that with you. And what you would do is just paste that into the collaborator details. And you can actually choose whether or not you want to open up internet access within this central clean room environment or restrict internet access. I'll just make it easy for us and say, I'm going to open up internet access, which means you can essentially call external APIs in your notebook job, whereas restricted internet access only restricts it to the serverless compute clusters that are running for that central clean room.
Got it.
All right, and then you just go ahead and create a clean room. And what is happening behind the scenes, and which is sort of unique to some of the other platforms, is Databricks actually creates a new account, Metastore, and workspace that's dedicated to this clean room that you're creating. So between Bank A and Bank B, there's a Databricks managed central clean room that's being created in that region that you picked within AWS. And just because you create your clean room in AWS doesn't mean that your collaborators also have to be in the same cloud or platform. Bank B can have a Snowflake instance or a BigQuery instance, and they can still collaborate. All right, so now that we have the clean room created, the next step is to go in and add in your data assets. So I'll start by clicking Add Assets, and this essentially takes you to the Unity Catalog Explorer. And for this instance, I have some financial transactions that I have that I want to bring in as Bank A. So let me look for that. You'll see in my catalog, I have financial transactions, and this is essentially a table that contains all the transactions that I have in my bank. And I hit save, and behind the scenes, what we're doing is that we're delta sharing this table from your Unity catalog into the central clean room environment. And I'll also add in a notebook, which contains the code that was essentially run the fraud detection. So if I select this, you'll see in preview that I'm essentially doing a inner join of all the financial transactions and the customer risk profiles that the other collaborator, Bank B, is bringing in. And I'm just sort of visualizing this in Python.
Awesome.
So I'll add the notebook. And as Bank A, I'm pretty much done, right? I've essentially brought in my first party data, and I brought in a notebook where we've mutually agreed on the analysis that's being done. So let me flip over to Bank B, and I hit refresh, and I should see the neat clean room that has been created. I'll dive into the clean room, and as you can see that both of these assets are made available for me. Obviously, one of the important things is that I can't directly query the financial transactions because I don't have access to the underlying data. I can only run the notebook that's been made available. But before we do that, I have to bring in my first party data, which is customer risk profiles and the merchants table. So let me go ahead and do that. So I have less catalogs here. So I'll bring in the two other tables, which is customer risk profiles and merchants, and into this cleaner. And similar thing, we're just delta sharing this asset into the center cleaner environment. And now we can look at the fraud detection notebook that was made available by Bank A. And in this case, I'm just inspecting to make sure that this is running the analysis that I initially agreed on. And what I can do is I can hit run, confirm that this notebook is what I want to run, and start the serverless job. One thing I'll say as this job is running is Databricks also provides the ability for you to use private libraries. So you can actually delta share a volume into Cleaner that may contain some proprietary IP or code that you don't want to make available to the other party or reveal that to the other party, but you can still use that as a Python wheel in a Cleaner. So a lot of interesting use cases that we see with that, especially with customers like identity resolution providers.
Awesome.
And now we wait till this runs, and you'll be able to see the results of this notebook job. That's pretty much it. So what you just saw end to end here is two banks coming together, bringing in their first party data, running an analyses, and then seeing the notebook without having to reveal or directly share the underlying data with each other.
It's pretty awesome. Pretty sweet. And please remind me, all of this is GA, public preview, or where's it at?
Yeah, so we are GA as of end of January for Cleanrooms. So everything that you saw here is available for customers to go use, and we're actually seeing a lot of customers moving into production for the Cleanroom use cases. And as I mentioned, we're building more capabilities like multi-collaborator, explicit approvals that are coming in very shortly. So excited to get those features in the hands of customers.
Awesome. And quick note just to make sure, if sharing between region from say AWS to AWS, no, if same region, no egress fees. However, if just be careful if you're doing it from say cross cloud, subject to egress fees. If cross region, subject to egress fees as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So everything that you're sort of aware of in serverless and being able to, collaborate across clouds or regions, yeah, you're subject to the serverless fees. And one of the unique things about Databricks Cleanrooms is that the Cleanroom creator, in this case, Bank-A, which we essentially walked through the demo, will pay for all the compute and costs associated with the cleaner. So if you're thinking about, we have a lot of data providers thinking of Cleanrooms as a way to monetize their
Yeah.
first party data. This is a great way because you can essentially host a cleaner environment, provide sort of the value to your customers, and have a separate subscription model or fees that you would collect for that collaboration itself. So the creator pays for all the associated compute, and there's also a daily collaborator fee that we have for cleaners.
How do you, are there any safeguards that a say like the provider can put in place to kind of protect their wallet?
Yeah, the primary safeguard is the notebook that is being run. And we are looking at capabilities where perhaps you can have limits to the types of analyses that you can do in a cleaner. Today, because it's mainly on the mutually approved notebook, you essentially know the type of job that you're running and the
Yeah.
results that you're seeing.
Yeah.
But we are
That
looking
notebook
into,
cannot be modified, correct?
correct, yeah, once the notebook is added to a cleaner, it cannot be modified by either party. So if you want to revise the code, you're essentially updating the notebook version or deleting that notebook and uploading a new one.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, thank you so very much for your time, man. This is very, very great. And again, hopefully people can check out Clean Rooms.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate
My
the
my pleasure.
conversation.